Welcome back, beautiful badass souls, to the Art of Badassery's MINDFUCKS with Mahara. And listen, if last week's episode on soul strategy cracked something open inside you, this one's going to pour light straight through the fracture lines. Because today we're talking about something you've been craving, probably without even knowing it: integration, wholeness, the end of living as three different women, depending on the day, the mood, or the damn audience. Okay, last week we explored what happens when strategy me and soul me try to coexist. When the high-achieving woman who can plan empires keeps trying to suppress the mystic who dreams them. When your spreadsheets try to dominate your spirit instead of partnering with it. When one part of you gets celebrated and the other gets shoved into the spiritual basement to be quiet. But here's your pinch of truth. Your shadow queen probably has already whispered. You're not meant to toggle between versions of yourself. You're meant to integrate. And, heads up, integration isn't quiet. It isn't polite. It isn't a mood board or a journaling prompt. Integration is identity alchemy. And it starts when the parts of you you've been trying to manage finally demand to merge. Okay, let's walk into this fire. Here is the real mindfuck. Most high-achieving women don't struggle because they're broken. They struggle because they're fragmented. One part of you performing success. One part of you is holding the grief of everything you never said. One part of you is carrying the future like a secret pregnancy no one's allowed to talk about. And one part of you is trying to get all the other parts to stop fighting long enough to get dinner on the table. Sound familiar? This is the fragmentation epidemic. And babe, you've been living inside it so long, you probably don't even see the edges anymore. But your Trinity does. Yep, your shadow queen has been watching you hand out pieces of yourself like samples at Costco. A slice here for work, a sliver there for family, a chunk for the image you're terrified of disappointing. But here's the thing, every time you shrink or swallow yourself, she feels it. Every time you silence your sacred rage, she feels it. Every time you forget your throne, she feels it. She's the one who nudges you with that deep internal ache that says, this is not it. Okay, then there's your inner critic, who most people treat like a villain, but who, as your oracle deck has already shown you, is actually a tiny, terrified strategist who's been trying to keep you alive using outdated survival scripts. She's the one who says, don't change anything, we might die. She's the one who keeps your desires in a vault labeled, do not open without supervision. And of course, your divine guide, the calm, crystalline voice, who already sees the integration long before your nervous system is ready for it. She's been whispering, you're safe, you're guided, there's more. But you only hear her between tasks, between breaths, between breakdowns, in the thin spaces where your ego loosens just enough for your soul to speak. So, how do these three stop being separate characters in your internal Hunger Games? Well, they integrate. They choose union over competition. They choose wholeness over hierarchy. And you, yes, you have been feeling that pull, haven't you? All right, let me tell you how fragmentation shows up in real life, because it's subtle, sneaky, and socially acceptable. You show up confident in a boardroom, but collapse in self-doubt the moment you have to choose something for yourself. Fragmentation. You speak your truth with your clients, but swallow it with your partner. Fragmentation. Your intuition is crystal clear in meditation, but conveniently disappears when you're about to send the email that would change everything. Fragmentation. You write in your journal like a sage, and then make decisions like a scared intern. Fragmentation. Well, this episode isn't about calling you out, it's about calling you home. Because your soul strategy only works when all three of your archetypes are at the table, contributing, conversing, challenging, and ultimately aligning as one unified force. When your shadow queen stands for your truth, when your inner critic refines your choices, when the divine guide directs your path, you become unstoppable. But when they operate in silos, oh my God, chaos, overwhelm, inconsistency, identity whiplash. So you don't need a new system. You need integration. So here's what integration really looks like. Not the spiritual Instagram version, but the lived, messy, holy, ground-shaking version. You ready? Integration is when the part of you that's been avoiding discomfort finally lets the Shadow Queen speak. It's when you stop pretending you don't know what you want. It's when your sacred rage stops being an emotion and becomes direction. Integration is when your inner critic stops screaming long enough for you to hear what she's actually saying. When you realize she's not trying to sabotage you, she's trying to protect you from a threat that doesn't exist anymore. When you start upgrading her role instead of firing her. And integration is when your divine guide shifts from occasional download to active leadership. When intuition stops being mystical and becomes practical. The strategy beneath the strategy. Integration is not the absence of parts, it's the harmony of them. And that harmony, that's what creates self-trust. That's what creates sovereignty. That is what creates sustainable success that doesn't require you to bleed out pieces of yourself to maintain it. Now, here's the moment your oracle deck steps fully into the room, because each card, every shadow queen, every inner critic, every divine guide is a mirror for a moment of integration, a moment where truth rises, a moment when fragment calls for a reunion. Let's just think about the Shadow Queen cards. Throne Revival, Sacred No, the Unmasking, the Reckoning, and yes, the Sacred Rage. Every single one of them is a doorway back to yourself. Every one is a reclaiming, a reminder that sovereignty isn't a costume you put on, it's in your bones. Think about the inner critic cards, the overthinker, the pretender, the doubter, saboteur, the judge. These aren't just cautionary tales. They're invitations to upgrade your internal operating system. They show you where fear disguises itself as logic, where doubt masquerades as discipline. And think about the divine guide cards, the whisper, the alignment, the pause, the silence, the wayfinder. These aren't predictions, they're revelations. They don't tell you what will happen, they show you what's already unfolding. Together, they are integration in action, your trinity embodied, your inner nation finally working as one. You're not meant to pull just one card, by the way. You're meant to feel the conversation between them. You're meant to live inside that conversation. So let's pull this into real time. Here are the signs you're entering integration nation, baby, whether you realize it or not. You stop asking for permission. You stop over-explaining. You start trusting the first nudge instead of waiting for 10 signs. I love that one. You start noticing when the inner critic is speaking from fear rather than wisdom. You start feeling the shadow queen rise when someone crosses a boundary. And you start hearing the divine guide in the middle of ordinary moments, driving, showering, grocery shopping. You stop abandoning yourself for convenience, and you start aligning instead of performing. See, integration isn't an event, it's a frequency. And you are already tuning into it. You're here, aren't you? But here's the kicker. Integration can feel like chaos at first. You bet. Because when your soul begins to unify, your old identities begin to dissolve. And disillusion feels like disruption. It feels like instability. It feels like losing your grip on the version of yourself that once felt safe. Which brings me, gracefully, ominously, to next week's episode, because integration always invites disruption. And there is a disruption you secretly crave, but we're not going there yet. You'll have to tune in next week. So first, let's anchor this. You are not meant to live as fragments. You're not meant to switch personalities depending on the room. And you're not meant to compartmentalize your brilliance like it's a filing cabinet. You are one whole, sovereign, intuitive, powerful woman. And your Trinity Oracle deck isn't just a tool, it's the mirror reflecting your wholeness back to you. Listen up, guys. Your shadow queen rises, your inner critic refines, your divine guide leads, and together you become the woman you were always destined to be. This is Integration Nation. Welcome home, ladies. So if you'd like to explore this a little bit further, then visit my website, www.mindfulnesswithmahara.com. The tab to see the complete Trinity Oracle deck is right there. Check it out. And if you'd like to connect with me one-on-one, within the website, you can book a complimentary strategy reading session with me. My name is Mahara. Have an amazing day. I'll see you next week.